is where these tube compressors really shine. So I'm going to take our two tubes over, but I'm also going to take an 1176 because this is one of my go-tos on bass. Again, let's listen to the bass. So it's pretty fat, but he's playing quite a quick and quite a busy part. That means it needs to be quite bouncy. So an LA2A might be too slow. The Summit Audio TLA with its variable attack and release might be the compromise that we're looking for. Failing that, something quite fast and quite snappy like an 1176 could really bring that kind of vibe we need. And also the flavor, the saturation of that FET circuit, it does nice things on bass. So I'm going to dial these in and then we'll do an A-B comparison again for you. Level match there, you can really hear how that's kind of woken up that mid-range of the bass. It's kind of lifted that sort of top-end distortion, like upper mid-range. It's brought the bass forward a little bit with that attack and release, especially because it's sort of letting it go really fast, which makes it jump back out at you. I'll go with the LA2A as well, so you can hear the difference, and then we'll dial in the TLA. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just go quick 1, 2, 3 so you can hear all of them, and then I'll tell you what I think. Okay, so for me, I really like the 1176 on this. That upper mid-range distortion harmonic content that it's providing is really helping to lift it forward. It's keeping it quite dynamic feeling, even though it's controlling it a lot. I mean, you know, on this 1176 here, we're getting as much as 7 dB on some bits. It is sacrificing a little bit of low end though, so that's where maybe the tube circuit of this TLA can come in. It's sort of giving me the attack and sort of the envelope characteristics. I'm going to quicken up the release a bit. What I am also going to do is I'm going to play with this saturation control here, because I think driving a little bit more saturation into the tube circuit or the modeled tube circuit could really help do that sort of 1176 thing with the harmonics. Not the same, but it might help. That's definitely lifted it up. I'm just going to do an A-B comparison now between the 1176 and the TLA 100. We'll start with the 1176 and we'll go, without me talking, straight to the TLA 100. It's a tough one because I like both. You know, they're each bringing a character to it, so I'm going to listen in the context of the mix, which is always the way you should listen when you're making critical decisions. Yeah, for me, it's the 1176, that FET style circuit, the harmonic complexity that's adding to the sound, and just the quickness of the release is really helping set that bass and give it sort of energy whilst controlling the low end. So that's what I'm going to leave on the bass. So we've got our kick, we've got our snare, we've got our bass guitar. Let's have a look at one more compressor that I didn't put up yet. It's another opto circuit, but this is a solid state opto circuit, so it doesn't have the tube characteristics, and as such it's a little bit faster, and it's a pretty popular one on electric guitars, and it is the LA3A. So as you can see, it looks quite similar to the LA2A that we had up before, in terms of it's got a peak reduction, it's got a gain, which is the output, that's the level of volume we're bringing up. It's got comp mode or a limit mode that changes the ratio. It's also got a different sort of output control, and it's got a high frequency bias, and what that does is kind of like a tilt EQ. So if you tilt it to the minus, or in a sort of neutral position, it's kind of looking at all frequencies evenly, and if you tilt it to the positive, it's starting to look at the high frequencies first and let more of that low frequency content sort of not pass through, because it's not a filter as such, but it just kind of more biases it towards compressing the high frequencies. So I'm going to show you what this LA3A sounds like on electric guitars. This is a go-to for me and for many mixing engineers, and I'll throw one more into the mix, which is this 33609 as well, just to give you a different flavor, and then we'll move on to our last point for this video, which is the mix bus. Pay special attention here to the meters, because we're not going above. So if you look without compression, we're peaking just below 10. If you look with compression, we're peaking in exactly the same spot. But listen to the sonic change, the control, the fullness, how it's bringing up that low level detail just a little bit. And we're not compressing a lot, we're only doing a couple of dBs here. So here it is before. And after. Now I'm going to do a quick in and out without me talking, but also listen to the high frequency of the guitar. It's sort of got a way of soothing it and dealing with some harshness that's up in that kind of 4-5K range. And I'll do it in and out, and then we'll dial in our 33609. Pretty cool. It's almost like the guitars lose their life, their kind of energy, and get a little bit flat sounding without the compression there. Let's have a quick look at the 33609. So for this, to keep it kind of simple, I'm not going to use a limiter. The limiter would be in if it was down like this. I'm not going to use a limiter. I'm just going to use a compressor. I'm going to go for a fast recovery. It's a light ratio of just 2:1. We're just going to be touching it, and we're looking for a few dBs of gain reduction again, and then we'll use our makeup control here to make sure the level's the same going in and out. So here we go. So I'll do a quick in and out so you can hear it. Again, it's really thickened up that sound. It's brought it right forward. And to be honest, I'm going to listen in context now, and I'm going to compare the two, but this may very well be the better choice for this mix, and we're about to find out. So let's start off with the LA3A, and then we'll flick without talking to the 33609, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at our mix bus. for this one, I'm going to stick with the 33609. That again is the harmonic complexity that is adding the diode bridge circuit. It's also the release characteristics, just a little bit more sort of feel about it to me. Not that the LA3A is doing a bad job, it's just this really brings these guitars forward and helps create more depth, separating it out from everything else, which is kind of the goal long term, you know, when we're mixing. Let's go down to our mix bus, which, if being honest, is where I would start usually. I do top-down mixing, and you know, like typically I'm mixing in hardware, so I have a bunch of compressors behind me, and I've kind of pulled the ones up that I've got in the rack to kind of show you what I might use. So classic SSL bus compressor, we've got a Manley Verimu. I've got the new Mu, not the Verimu, slightly different. This is an all tube circuit. That's a tube input stage with a FET output stage, so it's a little bit faster and a little bit more snappy, which is cool. And of course the classic 33609 that we've used on our guitars there. I'm going to just do classic mix bus settings on all of them. Slowish attack, fastest release, couple of dBs of gain reduction, nothing too crazy. They've all got a sidechain filter, so I'm going to do that. So what I don't want on the mix bus is for my low end, my kick drum, my bass to really trigger the compressor and squash everything else. I want to let that through a little bit using the sidechain high pass filters so that we can get a more even compression across the whole mix and the whole frequency range. So we're going to do a high pass sidechain in here. This one's like a fixed one, it's sort of either on or off. This one here we can do variable, so 500 Hertz is the max, so I reckon there's probably around 80 Hertz. And on here I'm going to go to 80 Hertz as well. We're going to do a slow attack, fast release, no makeup, and we'll dial in the threshold. Here we're going to go a slow attack, not all the way slow because this is quite this is a lot slower than you know, than the VCA style compressor, and we'll go with our release here. Fast release, and then on this one we're going to go with this classic sort of fast attack, because the way the 33609 works in a standard configuration, or at least the way that I use it in hardware over here, it has a fixed attack of about 4 milliseconds, and that works really well for getting underneath the transient and sort of controlling the dynamics. I don't personally like the slow attack on this as much, so I'm going to leave it in fast attack. I'm going to go to 100 millisecond recovery, which is the same 0.01 as here, and then we'll dial in some threshold settings and everything. So we'll start with the SSL. Okay, cool. Let's dial in the Verimu. Alright, now to our 33609. Okay, so now I'm going to do a quick A-B comparison, one after the other, without me talking, so you can hear the differences. For me at the moment, it's between the 33609 and the Verimu, but let's have a look. We'll start with the SSL. Okay, what am I hearing? I'm hearing that the SSL is gripping down on the transients quite a bit. Actually, I've just noticed that normally I go for a 4:1 ratio rather than a 2. So I'm just going to try that and see if that gives me more of what I'm used to and what I'm looking for. Okay, now maybe it's the SSL that I'm favouring. It's between the SSL and the 33609. Pay attention to how the guitars come forward, how that snare drum has that real kind of papery quality and it sits there strong in the center of the mix, and how the bass really starts to glue to the bottom. as I work my way through. What I'm hearing in the SSL, now I've got it on the right ratio, and the Neve, is that snare is really snappy, the bass feels good, and the guitars jump right forward. What I'm hearing with the Veremu is the guitars come forward in a nice way, but it's just not quick enough to let go for that snare to respond the way that the others do. So let's see if you can pick it as well. I'm going to go through one more time. Let's start with the SSL again. It's kind of really dragging that snare back. Let's listen to the last one. For me, it's the SSL. It's a classic. It's really helping to glue everything together. There's a reason that it's got the nickname the glue. They, you know, you can really hear the guitars. They're full forward, that sort of harmonic color that it's adding, plus the control of the transients, the snare. The low end feels really, really nice and round. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up all our compressors. We've got something on the kick, something on the snare, something on the bass, something on the guitars, and something on the mix bus, and I can turn them all on and off at once. Let's start with it on. Here's on, and then I'll turn it off without talking, and then I'll turn it back on again. Now, whilst it feels like there's a big jump in level, there isn't, because we've carefully matched the levels of each of our compressors here. We've got our DBX 160 doing the work. We've got our distressor level match for our snare. We know we've level matched our 1176 as well, and our 33609. I'm just going to triple check we've got this guy level matched. Yep, so that's putting out an even sort of a level here. What it does, all this compression together, is it's controlling the dynamics, it's adding harmonic color, and it's gluing everything together, and it's giving each thing its own space. By having all these different types of compressors with their different attack and release characteristics, you are putting an instrument in a space. That quickness of the release on the bass means that it comes right forward, so it separates out from the drums, which we've controlled with a fairly fast attack and a fairly medium fast release to kind of get them to stay in one spot. So they're staying here. The bass is moving quite quickly because it's got that fast attack, or a slow attack, fast release. So it's coming forward. The guitar's the same. Fast attack, they're being controlled. Fast release, and the color and the character of that compressor is helping them be more easily defined by our ears, followed by the glue, putting it all together. So here's our last A-B comparison. We're going to wrap this video up. So here's with it on, all our compressors together. Okay, so as you can see, different compressors make quite a big difference, and it's up to you now to go away and experiment and learn the different types. Have fun with it, you know, get all the demos, get all the emulations, put them on everything, listen to their characteristics, learn them and store them away in your repertoire. So next time you come up against a mix and you're thinking, how am I going to control this instrument, or how am I going to bring this instrument forward, or what compressor do I know that does this really well for transients, you've got them locked away up here in your repertoire. Hope it helps. Have fun mixing.